Welcome back to Stripe Developer Office Hours. I'm CJ Avila, Developer Advocate here at Stripe, and I'm joined by Charles Watkins, another Developer Advocate here at Stripe. Charles, do you mind giving a quick intro for us?
Yeah, of course. Welcome. I'm Charles, a developer advocate at Stripe. We're so happy to have you back here at Developer Office Hours. It's been a minute, hasn't it, CJ?
It has. It has. We haven't done an actual live Developer Office Hours in quite a little while. So yeah, excited to be live again. Thanks again so much for joining us. We've got a pretty exciting episode this time around. We're going to show you a sneak peek for a brand new pattern we're adding to the Stripe API that we're pretty pumped about it, and it should really increase your performance and make your applications a little bit more efficient by not having to poll. So we're going to dig into that in a little bit, but we want to just kind of like get started and welcome everyone and maybe share a couple other updates that we've got going on. So awesome. So here, this past week has been pretty busy. As you may have seen, we launched Stripe Tax, which enables you to facilitate, accepting tax automatically with checkout. We've actually got an episode all about how to do that. So Matt, our very own Matt Ling, did an episode here with Kelly Moriarty. It's available on the YouTube channel. If you want to head over and take a look at Stripe Tax, that is up and running, and you can learn all about how to handle taxes with Stripe. We also recently updated our checkout integration. So now we have a server-side option. So after you've created a checkout session on the server, there is now a URL embedded on the checkout session. So that's returned now as part of the checkout session object that you get back when you create a brand new checkout session. We also added support for recovering abandoned carts in checkout. So a lot of brand new features coming to checkout. A lot of really exciting stuff happening around checkout. I'm excited about this one. There's a lot of different tools too that we're adding. There was another one that was also released this week for doing upsells. So if you are selling a recurring price, you can offer maybe you have like a checkout session that has a monthly price that might be $10 a month. You can also upsell that to $100 a month directly in checkout, and there's a little toggle there for you. So lots of really awesome features coming for Stripe Checkout, or that are now available for Stripe Checkout. So head over, take a look at those. We also released support for pre-authorized debit payments in Canada. One other thing to mention too, the length for subscription IDs went from 18 to 28 characters. So if you've got some database constraints around the length of your subscription IDs, you might want to go update that. Finally here, I wanted to also share that we have this brand new sort of type of demo that we're launching. Matt Ling and Paul from the Stripe Developer Advocacy team have been working on a bunch of tiny demos. They're called tiny demos. These are bite-size, end-to-end demos that show you how to build parts of a Stripe integration. So here we're talking about how you implement Afterpay ClearPay, which allows your customers to pay in sort of installments. So you can click on pay here and check out the demo directly on Glitch. So Glitch has been a great partner here. And we're walking through the test flow here. But what's really cool about these is you can actually read the code behind for these tiny demos. And inside of Glitch, you can actually just update the code right here and remix the demo. So you can update it and play around with the different parameters that are accepted and run your own version of the tiny demo. So pretty exciting stuff. Charles, was there any, this week there was a bunch of new things released for checkout. Anything particularly exciting to you?
I think what's like, okay, so you kind of touched on it already, but with the recovered abandoned carts, one of the things that's super cool for that is that it also has enables you to do some analytics to see how often you succeeded with recovering those abandoned carts. So that's part of the flow too. So that's incredibly exciting. And then in addition to just the Canadian pre-authorized debits, it's a great payment method. But I just want to throw it out there that if you are a business that accepts donations, oftentimes in Canada, pre-authorized debits are the way to go, especially if they're larger donations. So if you're in that space, is especially exciting.
Amazing. Yeah, that's great for those nonprofits in Canada that want to accept donations. That's cool. I don't think that I had dug into the conversion tracking for this cart abandonment, this looks really powerful. Yeah, this is super exciting. There's just so many awesome things coming to checkout. It's hard to keep up. So if you're not already subscribed, there is a checkout newsletter that you can subscribe to for updates that are all about the Stripe checkout product. Very cool.
There is. And it looks like we already got a question. Are there any Yeah, oh, that's a nice feature.
Yeah. Any integration demo for Stripe with Angular? Good question. Good question. So we've got we have a community expert, Ricardo, who is working on NGX Stripe, but I don't think we have any official demos for how to use Stripe with Angular. I think it would be awesome for us to make one of those. What do you think, Charles? Like,
it would be. I haven't touched it in a minute.
Yeah, I haven't touched Angular in a little while either, but I do expect that we'll probably do maybe a getting started with NGX Stripe here pretty soon. Let's pull this up. Yeah, so Rich Knowledges. This is the repo that you want to check out, NGX Stripe here for adding support for an Angular 6 Plus application. It has support for all of the Stripe elements and all the client-side pieces that you would need. So definitely recommend checking that out. I can actually drop that in the chat here. Cool. All right, let's take a look at let's take a look at the search API. So we're gonna at the high level, we've heard a lot of users asking for the ability to retrieve Stripe objects based on different properties of the object. And if you are familiar with the list endpoints for Stripe, we have inside of the API reference, we have list endpoints for most of the objects that you can retrieve from the Stripe API. For instance, customers here, we have a list endpoint. And most of the time, list endpoints are only going to have parameters for paginating through the list. In the case of customers, we do also have this email option where you can filter by a customer's email. But most of the time, it's really just these sort of list parameters. And so many customers or users that we were talking to were reaching out and asking for a way to search for a specific object, maybe by metadata or by other properties of an object. And so what we would love is your feedback about a brand new query language that we're building into the Search API and the client libraries. And so what I wanted to do is just kind of like give you a quick overview of the brand new Stripe API, or this brand new Search API that's part of Stripe. And we'll take a look. So as part of the beta, so we're going to be running a beta program here where you can actually install a beta version of either the Stripe Node SDK, the Stripe Node client library, or the Stripe Java client libraries. And we have examples for how to install those that will be here in the docs once you're added to the beta. So you'll notice that it's a little bit different when you're initializing Stripe. You'll pass in, we're gonna use the Stripe Search Beta NPM module, and for Java, we'll also pull in the dependency when we're specifying it in pom.xml or however you're going to install the package as Java Search Beta, Stripe Java Search Beta. And the way that the Search Beta works is as part of the header, you're going to pass Search API Beta v1. This is once you're sort of added to the beta, you'll have access to this on your account. And if you're using the Stripe API client libraries, this will be done for you by default, so you don't actually have to use that. Now, if we take a look at some of these examples, you can see that we can use a brand new method on the top level resource called search. So you may have been familiar with calling the list endpoint. Now we're going to have a brand new endpoint called search. So I think maybe it makes sense to actually go through a demo.
Sure.
Yeah, let's jump into that. So this is with the beta. We're using this beta NPM module with Node. And I have added a little bit of instrumentation here so we can see every time a request is fired as we're working with the API. And I wrote a little method here to find customers. And when we're looking for these customers, we're gonna let's go through the case where we want to search for a customer by metadata. If we open up a customer in the Stripe dashboard here, and I happen to have one called Find Me in test mode. Let's see, Find Me. All right, so I've got this customer find me at example.com. And right now, if we wanted to, I think pretty easily we could use sort of the list endpoint. So like for async const customer stripe.customers. Oh, this is actually 408 dot list email. You can find them by their email address just fine. And by using this for await syntax, we're going to auto paginate through all the results that we get back from the list endpoint. And maybe we'll just push on any customers that we find. And we'll just run this with node find customers.js. And so it pretty quickly finds the one customer that we're looking for, because this customer's endpoint does support filtering by email. So we've got the one customer that we wanted back. But now let's consider the case where we don't actually know the email of the customer, but we might have some like internal ID, maybe a user ID inside of our database for the customer. We want to like pull and find the Stripe customer that's related to them. And maybe for some reason we didn't actually store the Stripe customer ID. So this cus underscore. If we didn't store that in our database, then the only other way that we might be able to find them is if, for instance, we had some user ID that was the user ID in our own database. So maybe this person's user ID is 789. All
And
right.
this is where it gets hairy too, right? Like if you need to go through a list of any of the Stripe objects, traditionally without that search API, you're just making API calls until you find it.
Exactly. Yeah. So in this case, there's no list parameters that we can pass to find by metadata, right? So if we use the limit parameter to make sure that we get pages of 100 customers at a time, and then we can say if customer.metadata.user ID is equal to like 789, because it will come back as a string. Then we add it to the list. Now, if we try to find that same customer, right, because we don't know their email address, now we're paging through every single page of results, right? And so in this case, this is super inefficient, but
Yes.
I suspect a lot of folks are trying to do things like this, where they're trying to target and look up objects based on their metadata. Yeah, so I think I have like 3,000 customers in my account here, this demo account. We can look at the
Been here
bottom.
for a while.
Yeah, there's a lot of demo customers. So I guess this is gonna end up firing off 32 API calls to Stripe before actually returning. And so that was probably like 30 seconds or something, maybe 30 seconds or longer, just to find this one object. And I sort of expect that most of y'all have businesses that are way more successful than my demo account with a lot of Jenny Rosens. But we were able to, again, successfully find the customer, but it did take a long time. So let's refactor and make this a little quicker. So I'm going to just copy and paste. So this is like the old inefficient way, and then we'll comment this out. Okay, so the brand new search API, instead of using list, we're going to change this out and swap it to search. And you can technically still use a limit parameter, because it is possible that your search results are paginated and you might have pages and you want those pages to have 100 items in them. But in this case, I'll just remove it for simplicity. And here's where we're going to specify the actual query that we want to fire off to look for a customer object. And if we head back over to the docs for a second and take a look at the query language. So we see some of these examples here. This is actually how we do the search by metadata. So you can specify metadata with the flat brackets and your key and your value in double quotes. This will allow you to sort of specify strings. And we're using a colon here in between instead of an equal sign. And so this is kind of what the structure of the query would look like for metadata. So if here we say metadata, I guess we're looking for 789, right? And the key is going to be user ID. So you can kind of see down here we have metadata.user ID. And so that's going to be our metadata.user ID, and the value being 789, the value being 789. So we can actually remove the if statement here. And now if we run this again, we will see we fire off just one query. So we're only firing one query. And if we take like a closer look at this specific path for this, you'll notice that we actually have v1/search/customers. So this is where the structure of the brand new endpoints as part of the API is v1 search customers. And so when we look for payments, it'll be like v1/search/payment intents or v1/search/charges. And again, the query is a single query string parameter. That's name is query. And then the value is this structured query language that we're working on. And so, yeah, we were able to sort of immediately find that one customer based on their metadata. And it was very quick, right? Just one request.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Like, it's interesting that it's like search is like its own API, because you would think you might just assume that they would just nest a new option underneath all of the different APIs and API objects, but it's its own thing. That's pretty sweet. And this is just like what it is in a dashboard. Like, there's so often you'll be in a dashboard, it's like, oh, I need to find something, and you can just write a dashboard query to get it really quickly. And now you essentially have the same power with the search API, which is it's pretty sweet.
Right. Yeah. So this is a really common one that I have used in the dashboard before, which is like last four, right? Obviously, if we do 4242 in the test account, that's probably going to be everything. But yeah, so maybe we can try and actually do the same type of query for some payments, maybe in another script. Does that sound good?
Yeah, for sure. That sounds great. Because like being able to do those types of searches with just like a simple API is incredible. Because I know not everybody that needs to be able to look at Stripe data for a business necessarily has access to the dashboard. So now you can make a pretty much a read-only resource, so they can get to the data that they need without necessarily provisioning them access. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so you could imagine building your own dashboards, right? You could build your own sort of interface that allows you to search through all the same stuff. Yeah. All right, so we've got payment intents here. And so actually, I think in the search API details, we can take a look at all the different supported fields that you can search by. So we've got several that are supported on charges. And then there's also many that are supported on payment intents, subscriptions, invoices, customer. So the biggest collection here is actually the biggest like supported resource that has many different fields is actually charges. So here, if I search through stripe.charges.search, and we're querying for we're looking for the last four. So we want to go through the payment method details.card.last4. And if we say, let's actually say 3155, that's the SCA card. And yeah, so we'll log out, I guess, charge. So this is going to be all charges. And we'll log out the amount, currency, and status in the charge ID. I think let's give this a try. Find payments. So this one is, yeah, so this is logging out several different pages of payments, and we can see that it's USD, succeeded. We see the charge ID there. So this is pretty cool because you can now, you can make your own dashboard where maybe if a customer writes in to the support team and they say, hey, I need to refund a certain payment, or I'm trying to look up a certain order. Here's the last four of my card. Now you can build an interface for the support team to pull all the different charges that are based on that last four for the card number without needing to actually give full access to the Stripe dashboard to those folks. If you don't need to. The other thing that's really cool is you can actually combine these queries. So if we have, let's show maybe all of the charges that have this 3155 card, but also have maybe currency is euros, and that so you can use all of these different combinations too.
Nice.
So here we have, apparently I only have four charges that have been used with that card that are with euros. Now we can actually filter even further and say we only want where the amount is over a certain value. So we can actually say like and maybe amount is greater than 10 euro. And now if we run this again, we can see this charge that was 5 euro was excluded from the list. So very powerful stuff, but obviously we're very much still in beta and would love your feedback about the query language. So if you're curious about this, if you're interested in checking out the beta, please let us know. Yeah, so if we dig into some more of the different supported search fields, you can see that it actually gets a little bit more interesting too, because you can use sort of fuzzy searching based on strings. You can also use specific integer values for when the underlying field is an integer. You can specify card brands. So there's quite a bit of flexibility here, but absolutely want to hear your feedback. So cool.
Oh, we got some feedback already.
All right. Cool. Thanks so much. Really appreciate your time and attention. And Charles, is this? Yeah, I'm excited to build some dashboards with this. And I know that there's quite a few things that folks may. There's a lot of different applications and use cases that you can think of doing with this. One that comes to mind for me is building sort of a magic link service almost, where you can sort of just store all of your the user's data is actually in Stripe, and then you can look them up by some user ID, send them an email, right? Or almost building like using this as your backend, where you have maybe the small amount of data that you need on a customer is actually stored in the metadata for a customer, and then you use magic link authentication or something. But
that would be amazing. I mean, before I was a DA, I did integration engineering. So I'm like super excited about this, because I remember running into scenarios, not often, where it was like, oh, it would be really nice if I had this like I could search through my objects with the API as quickly as I can with the dashboard, or like if I could build my own dashboard, because like a lot of times, sometimes people just use the Stripe objects as like a kind of like a database. Like they'll just like load up on those metadata keys, because I think you get like 50 of them, right? So
yeah, that's right.
It's nice that you don't have to page through things anymore. You can do it proper, right?
Yeah.
So that's super exciting. I'm really looking forward to playing around with Search API and like trying to build something. I don't know if anyone on the stream right now is like had to go through the use case of like listing through objects, but if you have, I'd be interested to know like what you did with it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, let us know in the comments what you're interested in using this search pattern for, or what you're already using maybe batch list calls for that you might be able to replace with the search API. Another use case that we've sort of talked about is, if you wanted to poll for certain specific changes, now you can do that on a very targeted level. So instead of polling maybe all of your payments just to see if you have one payment where they bought a blue t-shirt, you might be able to now use the search API to pull a more targeted or specific narrow use case that you can build automations based on. So you wouldn't necessarily receive a webhook that is like narrowly defined as this, but you could potentially update your polling or any polling that you're already doing to use search and really cut down the amount of API calls that you need.
Yeah, that would be super cool. So like example, I'm just making stuff up. So I don't know if this is something that people would do, but like imagine you got this scenario where you're like, you accept SEPA debit, right? And SEPA debit can take a minute. So, when the person like processes their payment, they put in their details, you don't necessarily fulfill the order. So you send them an email immediately, right? And maybe you just want to like follow up with the end customer so that they know that you're still working on it and you're just like waiting for their money. You could potentially use the search API to search for payments based on like payment method, payment status, and then like send them a nice email after 3 or 4 days or something like that.
Yeah, that's an interesting use case too. Yeah, definitely curious to see also if there are other collections or other fields that you'd like to see support for that are not shown here. Please let us know so we can make sure that those are sort of prioritized. I did notice that we got one question in here from Tidy App. How do you deal with refund with Apple Pay? We're having issues with negative numbers. So the payments that you receive with Apple Pay through Stripe, you should be able to refund the same way that you would refund any other payment. You can do that directly through the dashboard or with the API. I'm not quite sure what you mean by negative with negative numbers. Would love to, yeah, could you add a little bit more context there? Or, and also, we also have engineers that staff a Discord live chat in business hours globally around the world. So if you head over to stripe.com/go/developer-chat, I'll add that in the comments here in a second. We'd be more than happy to chat with you.
Yeah, definitely. But Apple Pay should generally be like it's just like any other card transaction, ideally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. I think we can wrap it right there. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks, Charles, for joining me. And yeah, well, if you have any interest in using the Stripe search API, please let us know. And we'll add the contact information down in the description of the video. And this will be up on YouTube and available throughout the beta. So you can also reach out on Twitter. Our handles are available there on screen. And yeah, hope you have a great day. Cheers.
All right. Bye, everyone.